Well, hello, good evening, and welcome everybody to our Sunday night live broadcast tonight. Uh, the Leach Ross Show. It's episode number 37, I think. And tonight we've got a phenomenal guest. He's just an awesome guy. I had the privilege of spending a little bit of time with him in Las Vegas at a monster conference. And like Diana and I, he was one of our fellow speakers. He did a cracking job. He's built an enormous business. It's absolutely huge. And written a really good book. In fact, if you've not read this, it's called An Error of Judgment. Okay? So without further ado, I'm going to introduce to you none other than our guest tonight, but Brian Carruthers. Brian, over to you.
Clive, it's good to be with you.
It certainly is. Now, you've accomplished many things in network marketing, but I know you've got this reputation of being a real straight-talking guy, and that's great. So straight as it comes, Brian. No need to dress it up for this bunch. But first of all, for the benefit of our people who haven't seen you before, would you please be kind enough to share your story, please?
Yeah, absolutely. And let me first of all say I'm not normally this pale. I think it's the lighting in the room. It is wintertime over here. It's 15 degrees out. So I do look like Casper the Friendly Ghost on my screen. So hopefully you guys can fix that up. I also want to say that what you see behind me is I'm in my temporary house. I've been here for about a year. I'm getting ready to move into my dream home next month that I just bought a few weeks ago. And so you'll see kind of a little clutter in the background. But frankly, it's normally this way. Let me actually just kind of show you real quick. You guys can kind of see my desk, all the stuff behind me. That's kind of how I roll. I believe, and look, there's no exact science to this, but I feel like a clean desk is a sign of, for me, a clean desk is inactivity or small bank account.
I'm so pleased you said that, Brian, because I get shouted at for the state of my desk, which I refer to as organized chaos.
Yes, well, exactly. I know it's funny because Melissa will come in and say this. My mom would come over and she said, "Brian, oh my gosh, this is how you work." Yeah, I know where everything is. If you all saw my desk in front of me below the camera right now, you'd be like, "How do you even function like this?" But anyway, point being is that I believe that it's better to be productive than to be clean and orderly, organized. A lot of times people spend too much time straightening their desk, color coding their calendar, and alphabetizing their prospect list. And I just get on the phone. I make phone calls. I get productive. I'm all about being productive. So, but anyway, real quick, my background. I came from a real estate background. When I was 21 years old, when I got out of Villanova University, I came back home, and all my friends were out looking for their first jobs to cash in their degree for a salary somewhere. And I decided to join my brother and father in building a family real estate company in the Maryland and Washington, D.C. area. And I wound up working hard. I was, in my mid-20s, I found myself hitting the six-figure income mark by the time I was almost 26. And so I was not a stranger to hard work. I learned work ethic from my parents at an early age, and I put it to work, making good money. I was in network marketing for a little bit from when I was 24 till I was about 28, and then I wound up being with the company I'm with now for the last 16 years. And I can tell you that I stuck around. I stuck through it when friends and family and people just didn't believe. They thought I was wasting my time, and I went and told my brother and my dad that I was going to leave the family real estate company to go full time with my company I'm with right now. And they had some choice words, some names. I mean, I don't know if you guys use the same words across the pond, but idiot and moron in any country probably is not very very endearing. Yeah, but and I'll say with a smile on my face, I can say it now, but I cried buckets of tears early on when I was so sold on my dream and my goals, and I was gonna, this is my home run opportunity. And for my own family members, my close friends to make fun of me and put me down and tell me I was an idiot. At night, I would sit there and honestly, I'm a 44-year-old guy now, so I don't have any fear of telling people that I've cried before. But Yeah, it was not easy to get through that, but I can tell you, being on the other side of it, I don't know that anybody has accomplished anything great, from the Steve Jobs to the whoever. If you want to accomplish something great, there's kind of three phases you go through. First, you're ridiculed, and then you're opposed, and then what you do serves as self-evident. And I went through the ridicule, and I went through the opposition, and now everybody says, "Oh, we knew you'd go out and do well with that, Brian." So it's just how it works for all of us.
I have to laugh at that, Brian, because at the end of the day, Diane and I, we had a very similar experience. Diana's mother, I mean, she's, God rest her, she's passed now, but we went to her and said, look, we're just getting going, we're just starting up, be our first customer, and she said no. Okay, she eventually became a customer, but only when we got power of attorney. So I know exactly where you're coming from with that, and thank you for sharing that. Here's a question for you. In your book, this awesome book, you talk quite a lot about income-producing activity and managing that. Would you share that? Because to me, when there are some great areas in your book, don't get me wrong, but for somebody who's really just getting going, part-time, doing this, nooks and crannies of their day, that sort of thing, some of that I thought was just fantastically valuable. So just share that with us, please.
Yeah, so I mean, everybody's got their life, and then you fit your network marketing business in and around your life, versus the opposite in a career where you're working for someone else. You have to fit your life around your job versus your business around your life. So you have family, you've got church, you've got all these obligations, and you have to put your big rocks in first. And one of those might right now be a job. If you're working 8, 9, 10 hours a day at a job, then we have to figure out, okay, when are you going to dedicate some time to your network marketing business? Jim Rohn, one of the greatest business coaches and authors of all time, he always used to say that you work hard during the day at your job to earn a living, but you work spare time nights and weekends to build your fortune. So what I always share with people is that over here in America, basketball is a big thing, and Michael Jordan, what most people would consider one of the best basketball players of all time. And I say, if you were the Michael Jordan at your job, nobody did your job better than you, and you went out and did your job as hard as you could for the next 20 years, will you ever retire with your dream lifestyle at the end of that? And I asked that in front of thousands of people in audiences at a time, and rarely does a hand ever go up. Rarely. So I said, look, here's the bottom line. If there's no light at the end of the tunnel, why keep going down that same road knowing that there's no light at the end of it, unless you just never thought about it? Maybe it's never dawned on you that you're going down a path that has no happy ending waiting for you. But in your network marketing business, let's say you weren't the Michael Jordan at it. You weren't the Clive Leach. You were just one of the good ones. You weren't the best, but just a good one. And you make it to the top of your comp plan, and you're making $250,000 a year plus, passive residual cash flow, time freedom. I mean, would you be able to have your dream lifestyle with that outcome? Everybody's hands always go up. So if your job does not offer you a chance to get it, but your network marketing business does, here's the way I look at it. If you've got your job on the front burner, if you got your stovetop, your front burner is where your job is, and your network marketing business is on the back burner, I'm simply saying shift the burners. Now, I'm not saying you go from 50 hours a week at your job and 5 hours a week at your network marketing business, and all of a sudden now you're doing 50 on network marketing, 5 on your job. No, you have to keep your job going. You have to keep putting the 50 there. But mentally, priority, on the top of the totem pole of priorities in life, just switch the burners. And your 5 hours that you've got for your network marketing business is front burner, front emotional solar plex. You're putting your energies there, even though you're still physically at your job for that 50 hours. And when you actually make that shift, and you're actually giving the 5 hours that you got, it could be 20 minutes here, it could be an hour there. Maybe while you're cooking dinner for your kids, you're returning some phone calls for a half an hour. After you put the kids to bed, you're making another half an hour phone calls. While you're having your lunch break at work, you eat for a half an hour and you make phone calls for a half an hour. Or like a friend of mine, he says he ate his way out of his job. He was an engineer. He only had lunch hours to actually build his business. So every day he took somebody new to lunch, and he ate his way out of his job. Within 90 days, he quit his job, replaced his 6-figure income. So you have to find ways to do it. But again, you won't do that. This is the key. You won't do what I'm talking about. You won't take somebody new to lunch every day. You won't make phone calls on your way home from work. You won't do it while you're fixing spaghetti. Why? Because if your why isn't strong enough, because you haven't shifted the burners, if you think that your job will provide and it's going to get you through to where you want to go, if you think that, you won't go do the activity. You won't squeeze it in. But if you realize right now, maybe this is a light bulb moment for you, that your job is never going to give you the lifestyle that you want. Because when I just asked you, if you were the Michael Jordan addict, you did it as best you could 20 years from now, will you ever retire with your dream lifestyle? You probably said, well, no. Never really thought about it that way, but no, it won't. Well, if that's the case, switch burners. And then now you can get focused on income-producing activity. Okay? Yes, you need to spend some time talking to your teammates. Okay. In my book, I'll tell you what page it's on. There's a, should have prepared ahead of time, but there's a chapter in here. Here it is. I just saw it. There it is. Page where did it go? I just saw it. Oh, there it is. Page 163. So you guys are gonna be able to see this maybe. It's got the quadrants, and basically 20 on page 163. It's got I kind of carved my time up into 25% segments. And so the first 25%, there you go. The first 25% is me contacting new prospects. I'm always, if you're not talking to prospects, you're not making money. Okay, so you always have to be finding new prospects you can talk to. So number one, personally finding new prospects. Number two, following up on existing prospects. You personally contacting, following up on the people you've already given some information to you. They've already checked out a presentation on your website, a webinar, a conference call, they've been to a meeting, whatever. So 25%. Finding new prospects, 25% following up on existing prospects. The third 25%, talking to my downlines prospects, doing three-way calls, answering questions for their folks, and closing their folks. And then the fourth 25% is contacting my team to promote something, to promote a Google Hangout, to promote a big event coming up, to promote for them to get on a team conference call, to promote an incentive the company has put out, and you need to make sure they know about it so they know how to go set their goal and run for it. So that's basically how I divide up my day. And so income-producing activity, always remember this. If you're not talking to a prospect, whether it's your prospect or your team's prospect, you're not making money. Now, there are some things that need to get done. You do need to call your downline team members to tell them about stuff, to promote and guide and coach them, of course. But you don't make money doing that. It will lead to success. You see, there is a necessity to do that. But if you're not talking to prospects, if your team is not talking to prospects, your business is not growing at all. So income-producing activity is vital. If you only have an hour a day, spend 50 minutes of that hour talking to prospects and 10 minutes talking to your team about stuff.
Okay, and I 100% agree with you on that. For me, one of the things that's always run dies in my business is the calendar. If we haven't got appointments to present in that calendar, either our personal prospects or we're helping a team member present, then the people are wrong. And I see you just picked up a book. Here we go. There you go. Yeah, absolutely. So I think Rowan said, didn't he, something about either you run your week or the week runs you. So, if I remember rightly, something along those lines. And I think, Brian, you're kind of the same mindset with that, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, look, along the same line, either you be disciplined or the world will discipline you. Either way, you're going to be disciplined. So, Eric Worre talks about the fact that, we don't have a boss in our business. People say, I got network marketing, so I don't have to have a boss. Well, you kind of still have one. Your calendar is your boss. And if you don't fall in line with your calendar and obey your calendar, if you have too many white spaces in your calendar, then your business is not growing. So yes, we are our own bosses, but we are the only ones that can control our calendar. And I'll give you an example. I've got a guy on my team who used to work for the post office delivering mail, making $30,000 a year. And he had big goals, big dreams, and he really loved network marketing. And he had a goal that he was going to go out and get to the $500,000 income mark per year. And when he was going for it, he was doing well. I mean, he's at $400,000 a year. And he said, I'm going to get to we get a ring when you get $500,000. He said, I'm going to get the $500,000 ring. Well, unfortunately, he didn't get it the month that he said he was going to get it. And he shared with me his calendar, and there was a bunch of white spaces in it. And so the following month, he said, you know what? I'm going to get it this month. And what we've came up with is the fact that he didn't spend enough time in the right areas on his calendar to create the result of the $500,000 ring. The next month he got it done. And you look at the 2 months in his calendar entries, one had a bunch of white spots, one you saw no white in his calendar. And that threw him over $500,000 a year mark.
Thanks, Brian. That kind of relates to something that's happening in our business right now. We have, as you guys know, this is bonus year. It's a bonus amnesty. You qualify at a title this year, even if you've been in for a little while and you missed the time frame, you qualify that total, you will get your bonus. And as Brian rightly says, the calendar. The other thing, Brian, I wanted you to cover is the importance of events. I know both you and I, we've talked about this in the past, and I know how important you place upon them, but would you share not just the importance, but why they're important, if you would, please?
Well, events can do what you can't. I learned a long time ago, when I first got into network marketing, I was 23 and a half, 24. I looked like I was 18. I didn't see myself as having the ability to lead a bunch of grown adults in a business venture. I was just learning myself. And even to this day, even though I'm one of the top people in my company and I'm on the company DVD and I've written a book and all that, I still always remember that first of all, you're never a prophet in your own backyard. People on my own team stopped listening to me a long time ago, because even if look, you could be the most brilliant person in the world. Some of you all probably don't listen to Clive anymore, not because he doesn't have a wealth of knowledge, but if you hear the same voice over and over and over again, it just becomes monotonous. It becomes ho-hum. Oh yeah, I've already heard him before. I'll hear him again later. So I don't really need to really pay attention. So what events do is, if you get a prospect to an event, that prospect is going to see or hear something that's going to resonate with them that otherwise you as an individual might not have been able to deliver. They're going to see somebody else's story they can relate to. They can see a whole bunch of average people that they can say, hey, I'm like them, walking across stage, having their lives changed. So prospects need to go to events because it enables them to relate and to feel a part of something bigger than themselves, and it sells them. But for the distributors that are on your team to get out to an event, it's in the same way. Look, everything that you ever could need to figure out in network marketing to go from scratch to 7 figures is in the book. But the challenge is that somebody could sit down at their house and read a book and then get some information that way. But when they go to an event and you're employing all the different senses, emotion and the energy and the camaraderie and all the feeling that's involved. But also, you might relate to one speaker or one trainer in a certain way, and you get a lot from that person. But the person sitting next to you, it didn't resonate the same way. But the next speaker that you thought was boring lit their fire like could never have been lit by anybody else. So that's why at different events you have different speakers that are delivering information in different ways. And I'm telling you, events. Eric Worre has always taught, and I learned from him many, many years ago, that promoting events is one of the highest paying skills in network marketing. And if you could just don't get creative to reinvent the system. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. The system's already there. Get creative at finding ways to get people to plug into the system. See, the system's already there. We don't need to create the system, a new system. The system's there, it works. Use your creativity to convince people to plug into the system, to come out to the events. And one of the last things I'll talk about this, in the book I talk about a river. And if you can actually just get people, the river is a system. And you get people into the river current will keep them, it will sweep them along in the business. So, getting people out to events, getting them out to the conference calls, getting them onto these webinars, these Google Hangouts, it will sweep them along. So very, very important, promoting events. If you have a big company convention,
we've got a company convention coming up on March 21st and 22nd, and then we've got another major convention, Massive Action Day, in September, and then we've got Eric Worre. We've been talking about Eric. He's coming over to Manchester, England, on November 5th to 8th, a 3-day event in Manchester, the GoPro Recruiting Mastery, where you and I both spoke at the one in Vegas, and Perhaps you give these guys a flavor of that type of event.
Well, let me say this. For example, the convention. One of the things that my mentors taught me, I probably learned this back 16 years ago now, that if you get 100 people from your team through multiple legs of your organization, not just from one leg, but 100 people from your team to a national convention, you're set for life. I want to repeat that because I want that to sink in with you. Get 100 people from your team to a national convention, you're set for life. And I can look at the people on my team that are making 6 figures plus with strong enough teams that if they wanted to retire, they could, and the money will keep on flowing. Those people have had 100 people from their team at a national convention. There's something magical that happens when somebody goes to the convention. Now, a year later, some of the people still might not be doing much. But a majority of people who do well in a network marketing business attend the national convention, and a business goes from their head to their heart. Cool. They get bulletproof. They become non-negotiable. They go out there and take the business more seriously, and they're not able to be knocked out of the game by silly rejection or other stuff. So I would focus on getting 100 people from your team. You still have time to go get more people recruited on your team and get them into that March event. Fast forwarding to the fall event with Eric Worre. I mean, for those of you guys who are in the UK and you got Eric Worre having a GoPro event over there, you don't have to fly all the way across the ocean. I mean, I would take that event extremely, extremely seriously as well.
Yeah, he's a master trainer. Now, group, whilst we're covering our next little piece, I'm going to call for questions in the last sort of 10 minutes or so, 8-9 minutes that we have left. So if you want to start firing me questions. But I've got one here from Lucy Patterson. Brian, we kind of covered this already in a little, in your excellent presentation, I have to say. But Lucy, I think, is looking for the nooks and crannies and how he actually manages that, and how she becomes aware of that. So you actually fire up those systems. So your business is on the front burner, but you actually think, oh, right, it's 10:10. Now is my time to make the call, or how are you going to do it? How do you organize that with you?
For me, one of the chapters in the book is called The Perfect Day. And so you're going to be operating differently if you're part-time or full-time. A full-timer, you wake up and you've got control of your day. And so now it's really self-management. Time management is kind of a misnomer. You can't manage time. You can't slow it down, speed it up. I mean, it is what it is. It's going to come and go. So how you manage yourself, your own self-discipline is everything. Part-time and full-timers. As a full-timer, I wake up when I'm done sleeping. I like to get my sleep. I want to live long, and I like to have energy through the day. So I wake up when I'm done sleeping. But when I wake up and I get some tea and I maybe grab some bowl of cereal or something like that, and I might start downloading a few emails and just see what's going on. Brendan Burchard, who's a great author and coach these days, talks about not letting your inbox run your life, run your agenda. I suffer from some of the same things other people suffer from. I watch my emails far too much. I let other people control my agenda a little bit too much. But what I do works pretty well for me. I basically want to start my day as early as I can as far as making my first phone calls. Even after, kind of being, if you call it, a master of it, but I've been doing well with what I do for the last 16 straight years. I have nobody that needs to call me and say, Brian, hey, look, get your tail in gear. You don't be lazy today. Make your call. Nobody has to call me to motivate me. I'm self-motivated. But I don't want to let a lot of the day go by, and all of a sudden it's noon. I haven't made any calls yet. So I call it breaking the ice early. Break the ice early in the day. And then that way you can really get into a rhythm. And if you break the ice early in the day, you'll get some mojo going, and you might make 50 or 60 phone calls that day. Now you'll have outgoing calls, but you'll be taking incoming calls, like three-way calls from your team to talk to their prospects and so forth. But the same thing, a part-timer can do the same thing. On your way into work, what if you called a few people on the way into work? So your network marketing day got started even before your career, your job day got started. So now you're kind of in the rhythm. You made a few phone calls already, and you're looking forward to lunchtime to make a few more calls. You're looking forward to the bell at the end of the day, so you can get in your car and make a few more phone calls on your way home. And when you get home, so just finding a way, squeeze out. Look, if anybody on this hanging out with us right now, took a lemon and you squeezed it, I guarantee you, give me that lemon after you're done squeezing it, I bet you I can get some more drops out of it. That's what I do. I just get more drops, more minutes out of every one of my days. For example, if I'm going to go do what I call a PBR, a private business reception, an in-home meeting at somebody's house, and it's going to be at 7 o'clock at night. On my way to the PBR, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to make 30 minutes of phone calls. I'm going to make 30 minutes of phone calls on my way to the PBR. Then I do the presentation, and on the way home, I got a 30-minute drive, I make 30 more minutes of phone calls. So I can make 10 calls on the way there, do my meeting, 10 calls on the way back. I squeeze 20 calls into that evening when most people say, hey, I'm working my business, I'm doing a PBR, what else do you want from me? Well, it's not what somebody else wants from you. What do you want from your business? If you have an hour of drive time, you can be looking out the window or you can be making calls. Now, of course, do it hands-free, use technology, you don't endanger your driving and all that. But my point is just find ways to squeeze in as much as you can. That's all I did. This is my prospect book, and I've got prospects in here, different pages, different kinds of people that are in here. And frankly, it's got a lot of different people in different categories. I've got little notations. If I've got a little circle there, it means that they're on the fence, getting ready to decide. If they have a star and a circle, means that they're hot, and I can go ahead and close them in the next couple of days. But I've got the spiral notebook thing where I carry it with me at all times. So I have prospects I can talk to whenever I've got a free chance. I've got in my we all have technology these days, so I've got an online list, autoresponder campaign that goes through my contact management system. I've got that going on as well. But I personally am still one of those guys. I prefer this. I prefer just getting on the phone, have this driving this is my passenger seat. It goes with me all the time. If I'm in an airport waiting for a flight, I'll make a few phone calls. I posted on Facebook yesterday that on Friday I wound up with 4 recruits for the week, and I was bummed out because usually I've got a chapter in my book called Dangling the Carrot or Shopping the App, where if I recruit somebody, I'll hold on to that person and I'll call all the other people on my list and say, hey, look, if you hurry up and sign up now, I'll put this person underneath of you. I call it Dangling the Carrot, and it gets them to act quickly because they don't want to miss out on possible overrides. Well, Friday kind of got away from me because I was going to get ready for Valentine's Day and so forth, so I didn't really have the time to leverage the applications that I got. I could have probably 7 or 8 recruits, but I still wound up with 4. But how many people that are in your business right now are recruiting 4 people in a week? I've got a lot going on. I have a lot going on in my life, but I still found time to make enough phone calls to follow up on enough people to get 4 recruits a week. What do you have for a month? I'm going
to interrupt you. Okay, I'm sorry. But I'm going to, because one of the things which you're putting across extremely eloquently is the speed and the urgency of making these calls. But one of the things I think we ought to talk about in brief is using third-party tools, which we have got a great online 2.5-minute video that we can refer people to, and get them that, and a little bit of a script so they can get them to, if I were you, that sort of thing. What sort of stuff do you use to get people to take a look?
Every company's should have. Well, I shouldn't say that. A lot of companies don't have what they need. Sounds like you guys do. I know for a fact you guys do. Sizzle tools are great. You can do recruiting is a process, not an event. So you don't have to recruit them on the first exposure. Matter of fact, if you're expecting that, the problem with network marketing is that expectancy is what kills the distributors. If you recruit somebody and they're expecting that they're going to sign up everybody, because why would somebody not sign up? And that's what I thought. Well, how would somebody say no to this? Well, guess what? They're going to say no. A majority are going to say no. And if you don't prepare your new recruits ahead of time, that a majority are going to say no, they're going to be shocked. They're going to say, oh my gosh, maybe I'm just not good at this. No, you're fine at it. You just don't understand it's the law of numbers. You got to go through enough people to find the ones that are going to say yes. So, open your mind up first. Kind of, if somebody's crawling through the desert and they're dying of thirst, do you open a fire hose in their mouth, or do you give them a little sip of water? You just wet their mouth a little bit, and soon enough they'll be able to actually ingest a lot more. So, if you have a 2.5-minute sizzle video, start off with that. Get their interest piqued. Once they're piqued, now you can move them to the next level to get them more detailed information. So third-party tools and third-party people. If your mouth is moving, you better be pointing to a tool, a video, a website, a conference call, a webinar, a live meeting, and then always use third-party people, your upline or sideline, doesn't matter, whoever you're supposed to be using a workout partner to do the three-way call so that somebody else other than you is answering their questions and closing them for you. And I have a whole chapter in there on edification and three-way calls. You know, I wouldn't tell my prospect, hey, I want you to talk to this guy Clive. He can answer questions for you. That's not edifying. I gave him no influence. But if I say to my prospect, hey, Bob, let me tell you something. I'm working with a gentleman. His name is Mr. Leach, and he is a master of this business. He knows all the facts. He knows how the big money's being made. He's down to earth and loves to help people. But if I can get just a couple minutes of his time, he's very, very, very busy, very successful. If I can get a couple minutes of his time, I'm going to see if I can get him on the phone so he can give you some additional insights. And then I get Mr. Leach on the phone. Say, Mr. Leach, are you free for a three-way call? He says, yes. I said, I've got Bob on the line. He just watched the video. He's got some questions. Boom. And I connect them up, and I let Mr. Leach talk to Bob, and Bob, Mr. Leach. See, by using Mr. So-and-so or Miss So-and-so, and then using the first name only of the prospect, you're giving influence to the upline. I mean, Donald Trump. Anybody who knows who Donald Trump is, you know, he's a very wealthy billionaire here in America. And I guarantee you, if somebody did a proper edification and said, Donnie, I want you to talk to Mr. Carruthers. Mr. Carruthers, here, talk to Donnie. No, he doesn't go by Donnie. But if somebody actually brought him down and brought me up, it would give me the proper influence I would need to get his attention, to get him interested in what we're doing.
That's cool, thank you, and I look forward to speaking to Donnie. I've got a great question here from Dave Verberg. Dave's question is, Brian, you mentioned events. How important are home meetings, and how do you promote home meetings?
How do you promote them?
Yeah, and what's the importance of them for you?
A lot of billion-dollar network marketing companies over the years got there by having home parties or home meetings. What we call, again, I call them PBRs, what I was taught.
I think we would need to be here. A home meeting here in our business would be a bunch of distributors getting together, probably to practice skills, practice presenting, doing that sort of thing, and maybe having some prospects along, and maybe also making some calls on the phone together, you know. So they split around in different areas of houses, they buddy up with a couple of people, get on the phone, you know, that type of thing. That's what we kind of do.
Okay. So do you have meetings, what I would call a PBR, where you have a new recruit and they invite their contacts over to a house for a presentation?
Some of our guys do that, not enough.
Okay. So let me address both of those. And I hear reverb. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you great.
Okay, it's echoing on my side. So two things. What you're talking about with home parties, where you get a bunch of distributors together, I call those call parties. Same thing. So you're getting a bunch of distributors together, and they bring their contact lists, and they're maybe doing a little role playing and coaching a little bit first, and then everybody starts getting on the phone and making phone calls, inviting somebody to check out a video, come out to a presentation, whatever you do. The power in that is that it's the moral support. It's doing it together. You know, if I'm going to go out there and hand out CDs to people in the marketplace, one of our recruiting tools, if I do it by myself, it's a little intimidating, it's a little boring, it's a little lonely. But if I went out and did it hand in hand with somebody else, and we had some fun with it, and we're able to make fun of a prospect that says, no, get it out of my face, and we kind of laugh about it, and we move on to the next person, it's just more fun doing things together, having a workout partner going to the gym with you versus going to the gym by yourself. So we do call parties a lot, and again, not enough. I wish I had our people on our team doing way more of that. So the more you can get together, people will quit faster on themselves than they will quit on a team. So you want to have team culture, everybody doing things together. It makes it more fun, more rewarding, and more productive and more effective. Well, you said you don't have enough people on your team that are doing the home presentations to prospects. I have found, and again, look, every company's got a different culture, and certain companies are using more technology than others. For example, I like to marry high tech and high touch together. High tech does not replace high touch, and anybody who ever thinks that you're not going to ever have to meet with somebody ever again. You're not going to have to do a hotel meeting. You don't have to do home meetings. Everything's going to be just done on the internet now. As you know, you'll be able to just take your phone and you'll be able to zap somebody in their forehead and they sign up. You know, anybody who thinks that way, I think they're going to wind up realizing that it's probably not going to be the best. It's not going to happen that way. Belly to belly, I don't think will ever get replaced. You know, Jim Rohn and Zig Ziglar and others have always said, you know, you want to know the color of your downline's carpet, meaning you've been in their home, you've met their family, you know their kids. You know, it's a relationship business. And so one last thing on the PBRs is that if I recruit Mr. Leach into the business, and he actually is a new recruit of mine, and I can get him to invite, you know, 10 people over to his house. You know, I want to help him contact his contacts, and he can go out and talk to one person at a time. So 10 people is going to take 10 one-hour meetings, or I could say, hey, get 10 people over to your house. I'll come over there and we'll share with everybody all at one time. Well, a couple things happen. Number one, you're going to have the buy-in. If a couple people that are in the room are bobbing and nodding, they're like, yeah, man, this makes complete sense. That domino effect happens. The domino effect happens where other people that are seeing the reaction are going, yeah, this does seem kind of good. And all of a sudden you have a bunch of people signing up. The only reason why I ever would do a presentation like that in somebody's home is not because I want to get a few applications signed up and make a few bucks. Okay, I'm a forward thinker. My whole reason to do a PBR is to get the next wave of PBRs booked. So if I go over to Clive's house and he signs up 5 out of the 10 people, my goal is to have my calendar with me, and I'm going to actually have 5 more PBRs booked in those 5 people's homes. So I go from 1 living room to next week I'll be in 5 living rooms. And then from those 5 living rooms, what if I just get 2, 3, 4, 5 booked, and now I got a whole next wave of PBRs happening? And the great thing, yeah.
Sorry, Brian, it's so fascinating for you to hear you say that, because that is precisely, exactly, 100% how Dan and I built our business when we got going in this 18 years ago. And we just went from living room to living room. We were going wide and we were going deep, and we were just going da 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 all the time. We're getting towards the end of our time together, unfortunately. I must say this has been a phenomenal conversation, Brian, but unfortunately we are running out of time. So
sure.
Thank you very much indeed for your input into this. Guys, I'm sure you'll agree with me that Brian's been one of the best broadcasts we've had to date. Absolutely superb. In a month's time, we've got another special guest. We've got a lady coming on, a lady who's become a very good friend to Dan and I, a very interesting person, fascinating lady, phenomenal story. Her name is Lisa Grossman. And Lisa has been described as mother of networking. I think the favorite title I heard from her is The Mentor's Mentor. And I thought, she's got a great story to tell. But, Brian, in the last question, because there's some great questions here, we just don't have to get time to it, but there's one that I just saw pop up, which we were talking about PBRs, and I get where this guy's coming from. A chap called Paul Lang. This is our last question tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to finish with this. How would you put enough value on a PBR to a new recruits to ensure they actually buy into it and schedule a meeting?
I think it's all about creating the sense of urgency to launch their business. I say, hey, do you want to start your business or do you want to launch your business? They say, well, launch. Well, if you want to go out and expose your information about the opportunity to 10 people, would you rather take 10 hours one at a time, or would you rather do all 10 in 1 hour? And so it's called success compression. If we can do more and accomplish more and make you more money in less time, would that make sense? Absolutely. Well, here's the way. It's not a way. Here's the way that we do that. And if you just say, this is the method of operation, this is what we do, if you open up a McDonald's restaurant or any kind of a franchise, you buy into the franchise because you're not just buying into just opening up a restaurant. You're buying into a system that's been proven. If you just follow their formula, you'll get the same results. So it's how your posture in presenting the idea that this is how we launch somebody's new business. And I think if you do that, it'll probably make a lot of sense to them. And also, very importantly, facts tell, stories sell, whether it be selling your product or selling an opportunity. So all it takes is a handful of you guys to go out there and do some successful PBRs, and then you guys as leaders aggregate those success stories and perpetually tell those stories over and over and over again. And I have to continue doing that in my organization. I've got hundreds of thousands of people on my team all over the United States and Canada. And we have our conference calls every couple times a week, and I'm always sharing success stories, because when you just start to talk train, and you forget the stories, they hear it, and it hears like work, and it hears like, oh, here's what we're supposed to do. It doesn't resonate. But when they hear that this person just came on board, and that on their third night in the business, they had some people over to their house, they had 8 people there, and 6 of them got recruited that night, and they got promoted to the next level. Guess what? Now we're going, man, I'm going to go do one of those. So it's very, very important that you actually get it going, create a ripple effect from success stories.
Brian, thank you so much, and thank you so much for being part of this broadcast. It's been an absolute cracker. Awesome.
Well, so I appreciate everything that you do. I mean, you're a legend in the business. It was great to see you and Diane out there at the GoPro event, and I look forward to seeing you at events in the future. And I'm just glad to be able to kind of share some insights. You know, as you guys probably can tell, I'm not one of these real big motivational, let me just go out and just kind of, you know, fluff you up and get you like motivated. I'm kind of the trainer that Eric likes to have me training these things, because I'm really a tactician. I like to train on the activity and what to do, not all the why to do it, and all that. All that is important. But I like to really give content. So, because I think you empower people 2 ways. You can motivate them by sharing them with some inspirational stories. They need that. I need that. But you also empower them by knowledge. Knowledge can empower them. And that's why I wrote the book, because my team, I couldn't be always in my team's face or in their ears all the time. They're spread out all over the country. I can't be at events all the time with them. So it took me literally a year and a half to write the Building an Empire book. I wanted to have everything in one place. I asked a lot of network marketers at a GoPro event with Eric Worre 3 years ago, when my first time I spoke on his stage. I asked some of the big legends that were there at a VIP dinner. I said, what book do you recommend to your team? What book do you always go back to? What's the encyclopedia of network marketing that you refer to, that you're taking your trainings out of? And nobody had an answer. So I said that, you know, that's something that's if we could just fill that void and had everybody having one book that they're reading out of and studying out of and teaching out of and all that, get the whole team to galvanize kind of the flagpole everybody rallies around all the time. I mean, I've been invited to events for different network marketing companies where one of their people said, hey, look, I got my team, and we read it straight for 90 days. We implemented all these different things out of it, and they would say, I want you to come over to the event and be there by the foot of the stage as we're getting recognized as the newest diamond in our company. And they're trying to give me credit. I'm like, hey, I'm glad you read it and glad you implemented it, but it's one thing to have the information. Knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is power. They chose to go use it. You guys have all the information in your hands now. So now it's up to you to go out there and say, I'm going to go out and do this and do it consistently.
Brian, awesome. And I'm speechless. I'm wired, fired, inspired, and absolutely cool. And I bet everybody else is on this call as well. So now, unfortunately, is the time that we do have to say cheerio. So, guys, if you have been, I'm sure you've been taking loads of notes. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in a month's time with Lisa Grossman. And so it's bye-bye from Brian. Say bye-bye, Brian.
Okay, guys.
Okay, and it's bye-bye. So we'll see you real soon. Take care.